Everyone, I'd like to call this Town of Cedar Lake Planning Commission August 18, 2021 public meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bob. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, sorry.
Mr. Carnahan.
Here.
Mr. Foreman. Absent.
John zooming?
No.
No. Do we anticipate him
He's
zooming?
on his way. Oh, he's on his way, okay. That might be him. Mr. Sharp.
Here.
Ms. Detzauer is going to be absent, you said?
She will be absent.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Kapora.
Present.
Mr. Wilkening.
Here.
Mr. Oliphant.
Here.
Attorney Austin.
Present.
Ms. Mark. Present. Mr. Everly.
Present.
Margaret Abernathy. Present.
John Foreman is in the building.
Present.
Mr. Foreman, thank you.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the July 21st, 2021 public meeting minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the July 21st, 2021 public meeting minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sharp. Do we have a second? Second by Chuck Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan.
Yes.
Mr. Foreman.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Kapora.
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening.
Yes. Motion carries. Item 1, Hardy, final plat, one lot subdivision, owner petitioner Bernadette Hardy, 934 Jordan Circle, Schererville, Indiana. The vicinity is 8025 West 126th Place, Cedar Lake, 46303. The petitioner is requesting a final plat, one lot subdivision. Mr. Austin, everything's good?
This is not a public hearing, it's a public meeting action. Decision here by the planning commission for final plat approval.
Okay.
Chuck is your engineer on the details.
Don?
We have no further comments. I don't know if waivers are necessary to be read into the record again. I think they were for preliminary plat.
You were done at primary plat.
Yeah, so I think we're good, so we have no comments.
Was this the property that you had contemplated some language for
No,
stormwater?
no, that may be
This is a different
one
property.
later.
Okay.
Yeah.
the Cedar plat.
Okay.
This one had the revised address, which,
Okay.
what was
The
it?
unknown address.
And everybody's good with the new address?
Yes.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion for approval for the final plat, one lot subdivision for the owner Bernadette Hardy.
Motion by John, second. Second by Mr. Becker. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan.
Yes.
Mr. Foreman.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Kapora.
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening.
Yes. Motion carries.
That's it?
That's it.
Good. Thank you for the birthday present.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday today.
Tomorrow.
All right. Happy birthday, Ruth.
How old am I going to be?
I didn't ask.
No, we don't have to.
We don't need to know. I would never ask.
You just keep guessing.
Thank you.
I'm a good guesser.
Good luck to you, ma'am.
I'm a good guesser.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2, Birchwood Farms Phase 3, final plat. Owner petitioner, Hanover Development LLC, 8051 Wicker Avenue, St. John, vicinity is 12400 Wicker Avenue. Petitioner is requesting a final plat for 38 lots and 2 outlots. Name and address for the record, please.
Jeff Yatsko, Old Hoff Homes, 8051 Wicker Avenue, St. John, Indiana. Yes, we're seeking final approval for Birchwood Phase 3. We received Don's letter, his review letter. We do concur with the fees that are in there for the inspection and for the performance letter of credit. And again, it's 38 lots and 2 outlots.
All right, and Don, this $288,556.68 is what we're
That is the performance letter of credit, along with the 2009 MS4 fee, and the 3% inspection fee is $31,443.22.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on anything regarding this item?
This includes the second entrance too, just to let you know.
Okay, that is finished.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Dave, any questions? Good. Chuck, questions?
Good.
Very
Good.
Okay, very good. All right, would anyone like to make a motion? Building department, you're good?
We're all good.
You're all good? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the final plat for Birchwood Farms, 12400 Wicker Avenue?
I'll make a motion, we approve the petitioner's request for final plat on 38 lots and 2 outlets.
Motion by Mr. Kapora. Do we have a second?
President Wade.
As noted by Don's letter with the prices.
Three values.
Yes,
With the shirt,
as John Foreman just stated. Per Don's letter with the dollars.
all the assurances.
Right, I don't have it here, so I
Okay.
can't refer to it.
I would second your motion, John, for the noting again the letter dated August 10th by Crystal Burke Engineering with the prices read into the record as we go.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 3, Centennial Phase 13, convert performance letter of credit to a maintenance letter of credit. Petitioners requesting to convert performance letter of credit to a maintenance letter of credit. This is the vicinity's 141 Parish Avenue, Cedar Lake. Owner petitioner, North Central Development LLC.
Jeff Yasko again, Old Hawk Homes. That pretty much sums it up. We've completed all the performance letter of credit items, so we're looking to convert this to a maintenance letter of credit for 3 years.
Okay. Mr. Oliphant.
3-year maintenance letter of credit in the amount of $121,699.59.
Okay, Mr. Austin, any concerns? Anyone have any questions? Building department? No problem. Problems here. Okay. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion and to include Don Oliphant's?
I would make a motion to approve Phase 13, convert the performance letter of credit to a maintenance letter of credit for the $121,699.59 as read off by Don Oliphant on the July 29, 2021 letter.
For 3 years.
For 3 years, thank you.
A motion by,
Second.
second by John Kapor. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries. Item 4, Centennial Phase 15, performance letter of credit. Owner petitioner, North Centennial Development LLC, 8051 Worcester Avenue. Vicinity is 141st and Parish Avenue. Performance letter of credit extension and establish a pull date for a performance letter of credit expiring September 5th, 2021. This was the asphalt that had to be redone.
Correct. So we, as I mentioned at the study session, we are going to do that. And in fact, I just drove through Centennial before the meeting. I think we're done with the dumpsters now. So I'm trying to get that confirmed. We'll get that mill and paved, but it just won't happen. It'll probably happen next week, but by the time that happens and it gets inspected, it'll be after the expiration date. So we're just going to go ahead and extend it, and then I would expect in a month or two I'll be here asking for that to be converted to maintenance.
So you're asking for an extension tonight?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
that was,
That's
in
a
the study
different-
session, we talked about extending it.
We just have to set a full date in case it doesn't come in.
Right.
60 days?
Yeah,
Talking about-
yeah, for the extension, if you want to do 60 days or whatever your bank feels, I mean, it should be pretty quick, turning it back into maintenance, so that's kind of up to you. I would recommend 60 though.
60 days?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't,
we should
other than
be,
the mill and pave, I think we've done everything else on
Yeah.
that list, so.
So
And that
we're-
mill and pave may happen by next week.
yeah. That
So-
timing.
The motion is for an extension.
Yes, if he brings it in, it just rolls over for another 60 days, and we'll have the same discussion here, in the next month or two. But you also have to set a poll date in case that doesn't come in.
It's recommended to set the full date of Monday, August 30th to begin the process. You're going into a holiday weekend, and that is September 5th is a Sunday.
Okay, so the extension date is 60 days from September 5th.
Correct.
Poll date is
To begin the process
August
on August
30th.
30th.
Since if you don't have that letter of credit in hand by the 30th, we'll pull.
That's not 60 days, is it? Or-
Well, no, the extension will be for 30 days. I don't think we have to vote on the extension.
Extension, 60 days.
60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there needs to be a vote for the extension. I think the vote has to be for the pull date. Because he can come in with another expiration date, another letter of credit that's in order without a vote, correct, David?
It is, but 60 days is going to be the extension. September 5th is not the expiration.
Right.
But if we don't receive a draft or any other communication by August 30th, I'll reach out to you to begin the full process.
Got it.
So 60 days is essentially our first meeting in October, therefore, the poll date would have to be prior to that, right?
The full date needs to be set at August 30th, because the current letter of credit we have in hand is
September
expiring
5th.
on September 5th. Their intent is to extend this letter of credit for 60 days
Got it.
to November 5th.
But we don't have the extended.
We don't have
don't have
the
it yet.
extended one in hand,
Right, so I would give you
therefore
the
we have to
extended
act
one.
on the one we have.
So the motion should include, and only include, August 30th full date
Yes,
of the existing.
yes. I mean, if everything goes perfectly, we'll be back here in September, because it doesn't need to be advertised, so. If they get it done really quick, we could be back here in a month, turning over to maintenance.
So just because of the timing, obviously I have to give you a new letter of credit before the 30th of August, so I understand that, but the 60 days,
That's kind of up to you.
right, so that's up to us, right? I
Yeah.
mean, typically our performance letters are credited for 3 years, this one was only for a year.
Yeah,
So, I guess it really doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't
If we have
matter.
a letter of credit, we're gonna
No.
convert it in a couple days, in a couple months anyway. I would just hate to
You
do
just gotta
60
give yourself
days
enough
and
time.
then, be caught up in a meeting schedule that,
Yeah, and that's what I think too, because the meeting
That's
schedule
fair.
doesn't work in your favor.
right,
So a 90-day or beyond is better for you.
right.
yeah. Give
I will
yourself
give
some
you guys
leeway.
a new letter of credit before
Yeah.
August 30th, and then I'll be here in a few months to convert that to maintenance.
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody clear on that? Everybody clear? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding this letter of credit, full date of August 30th, 2021?
I would make a motion for, the performance letter of credit having a full date of August 30th, 2021, as well as extending the letter to 90 days for what it's worth. Even though we don't need it.
Or more.
Oh, 90 days. I looked at the calendar, that is
It's
adequate.
one of those empty acts, John.
It's 90 days. That's my motion.
We're 90 couple weeks.
He thinks he'll be
We said
squared away
60,
by then.
We said, first, okay.
I looked
All
at
right.
the calendar, 60 doesn't make a logical sense. The first, September's meetings are, the 1st of September and the 15th of September, then we don't meet again until the 6th of October, so it just seems too tight.
That may be the AIM conference,
Could
John.
be, could be.
It is.
Therefore, it's even beyond that, so 90 days is a good one. Thank
So you want to amend your
Or
motion
longer.
to 12 months?
No.
Okay, all right. So do we need to amend?
Full date of August 30th with an extension of 90 days.
Okay, would anyone like to second Mr. Foreman's motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Foreman, we have a second by Mr. Foreman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkman?
Yes, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Item 5, final plat, one lot subdivision, order petition of Rob Henn, Henn & Sons Construction, P.O. Box 502, Cedar Lake, Indiana, Vicinity is 13324 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner is requesting a final plat for a one-lot subdivision. Hello.
Good evening, Ryan Maravich, DVG Team, 1155 Troutwine Road, Crown Point, Indiana. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Henn requesting approval for final plat. I believe everything is in order as far as the review and that type of stuff, so.
Okay. That's my understanding also. Mr. Austin, everything's good? Mr. Oliphant?
We're good with that.
Everything's good. Building Department?
You're good, you have
All
the
day.
August 2nd letter of Christopher Burke. Same was reported at your work session.
All the visuals are good?
Everything's good.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the final plat for one-lot subdivision for Henn & Sons, 13324 Wicker Avenue?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Becker, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision. The owner is Edward A. Sidor, as personal representative of the estate of Joseph Sidor. Property is located 13616 Cedar Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana, 46303. The petitioner is Joseph Setnoff, 9801 Connecticut Street, Crown Point, Indiana. And again, the vicinity is 13616 Cedar Street, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petitioner is requesting final plat for a one-lot subdivision. Good evening.
Preliminary plat.
I'm sorry, preliminary plat.
Yep, preliminary.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. President, legals are in order, public hearing may be conducted.
Okay.
Joseph C. Svetnoff, 9801 Connecticut Drive, Crown Point, Indiana, here on behalf of the estate of Joseph C. Sidor.
Okay. Don, there was some language that was discussed regarding this because of some of the caveats. And I didn't know if you had come up with anything or...
Not for preliminary. I mean, if we do opt for putting something on the plat that's specific to the lot, it'll be on the final.
Okay, all right.
But no, I mean, kind of what we said in previous meetings, you know, the drainage for this parcel will be, you know, pretty well looked at during building permit processes, so. And you also have a laundry list of the typical waivers for one-lot subdivisions.
Okay. Does any of the commissioners have any questions regarding this preliminary plat?
No, sir.
No, sir? Okay. Any questions?
Are we gonna open up public comment first, or public meeting?
Yeah. I guess, Mr. Setnoff, sit down real quick. I'll ask if there's any public comment regarding the Sidor, 13616 Cedar Street property. Anyone have any questions or concerns about this property?
Yes, I
Come
do.
to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Judy Holford, 7512 West on 36th Place. I live at the bottom of 136, and there's been flooding in my front yard and backyard ever since I've lived there now, about 14 years. And I came to a series of storm board meetings in 15 and brought pictures. I have pictures tonight too of the flooding that happens in my front yard. We even had a canoe out there one time, paddling around the front yard. That's how deep the water is. And it comes off the back street where Mr. Becker lives and floods through the back of our yard. The whole yard is probably about knee deep. And then the front yard is even deeper than that.
And that was in 2015?
What?
You said that was in 2015?
2015 is when we started talking to the storm board about the problem. And then on numerous occasions, I never heard back.
That before or after the new roads, Jill?
After.
So that was after the
After.
new drains? Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that everyone's aware, in whole or in part, about the stormwater challenges in that area. Mr. Austin, this is for a preliminary plat,
It is.
and the final plat will require, or may require, some language regarding the lighting.
Actually, the substantive part of this proceeding is tonight, and at the primary or preliminary plat stage, as it may be called, statutory. So, if you're going into substance, now is the time that needs to be done. The last stage, as you had in the other one-lot subdivisions, that pretty ministerial.
Do you want some of the photos of the flooding?
I think we're aware of that. We're trying to sort through the language that we may or may not want to attach to.
Because
I walked
this
this
lot, this lot actually backs up onto my property
Okay.
as well.
John, have you seen these pictures?
Yeah, you know, in fact, I've seen your home, very nice house, super well manicured, so
Thank you.
very, very nice. I walked this whole area, quite honestly, and, you know, my take is that probably in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or whenever, some of them, the homes that are down in that bottom of that gully, was a challenging situation. So, again, this is a preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision. I think that creating a one-lot subdivision should have its own set of parameters, regardless of if it were to get built upon. If this gets purchased by one of them that live on one of the three sides, for example, it doesn't change. If somebody were to someday buy it, build something where all the water's pitched out to Cedar Street, I don't think there were curbs, so it's going to ultimately end back up into the same drain where she is as it does now when any of these manholes on the road to the north, 136th Avenue, get clogged up, et cetera. So it's kind of a bowl area, and I'm not sure that it's even that much above lake level, is it, Don?
Was it lot?
It's a challenging area.
What is it? No, I mean, you're higher than the lake level by about 5 or 6 feet.
Is it 5 or 6? Okay.
That's higher than the high water level of the lake.
I got you.
So, and the problem with the drainage, not to get too in-depth, is you have a lot of water going to that low-lying area in a pretty small pipe. And a system that's, you know, the overall system is, you know, suffers from capacity in its own right, and bellies and back pitch areas, and
Yeah.
it's just an old, poorly constructed system that's been there for quite a long time.
Well, I guess the question now is, are we continuing the problem without some kind of clarity for who's ever here next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now?
So, I mean, to give you a sense of what we've done in the past with, you know, other similar problems, the first one that comes to mind is one in Surprise Park that had, you know, the low-lying part of that property was actually on the parcel that they were planting. So we put notes on there of things they had to comply with, you know, as far as, you know, poorly drained areas and some specific, you know, things that they had to do for a lot like that. But like I said, the issue was on that lot. Like, it wasn't contributing to an issue, say, off their lot. So this is a slightly different case, I think. You know, I mean, this lot is elevated quite high above the actual, you know, problem area. It's got upwards of 10 foot of pitch from, you know, its most northwesterly corner to its southeasterly corner, right next to the Hoffers parcel. So that lot specifically does not have a drainage issue. It just contributes to a drainage issue if you build on it. Potentially. I don't know if it's ever going to build on it. I don't know what they're going to put on it. We don't know that right now.
But in the event a home were built and all the water goes to Cedar Street, does that?
It can't go to Cedar Street.
It can't.
It's too high.
It can't. You might be able to get like the frontage to it, depending on how they elevate it, but once you're past the frontage, it's going to drop right off. You just can't do it. It drops off pretty harshly.
And don't we drain out of that 18-inch pipe, goes out to the lake that drains the whole subdivision that's 10 to 14 acres?
Does?
That's only an 18-inch pipe that goes out to the lake.
I don't remember what the exact, it's either an 18 or a 24 at the outfall.
And then, you know, I got on notes, I have all the notes from the storm board meetings.
Oh yeah, I mean, Chuck, nobody is
Well, no, I'm just
saying
saying,
it's not an issue.
where it says,
So what
cannot hold any more water whatsoever. It says, August meeting. Says, South Cedar Point.
We're still in remonstrators, so there's still more people that can come out.
As they could, the main line was pretty clean, but
We're good,
they got back to the yard, that's shape, about 10-inch lines running, 136 plates, the common lines between all these houses, there was an 8-inch. Running west and east, there's clear capacity issue. Those low spots, we have roughly 10 acres runoff into a 10-inch pipe. Does not really do well, we have more than soaking. And then, you had, Public Works do a smoke test. And this project, this is a large project, would have to redo the whole system. And it'd be, suggested to be part of a larger project, not an easy fix. We need curb and gutter to capture everything. Not only a stormwater issue, but a minor roadway improvement also.
Yeah.
So, technically, what you're saying is, this lot only may contribute to a problem.
Yes. Not knowing exactly what they're going to do, if they ever do anything on it. You can't say for certainty they're going to make anything worse because they're just making it illegal out of record, really.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Don, hearing what you just said, does that seem to necessitate possibility, or the end use, be it a single-family home, be it I can't contemplate anything but a single-family home.
I mean, but,
Here,
I
so
mean,
that the totality of the impact of the storm runoff or impact on adjacent could be determined?
I mean, you could make a statement that says if you put a 1-by-1 piece of roof that drains back there, that's a worse condition than it's out there now, which is grass. So where do you put that limitation? What is your...
I don't know, that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking. You need to know what the end use is, and there's going to be a footprint of a residential structure,
Yeah.
an attached garage, and whatever.
Well,
2 weeks ago, we had discussed,
What it is, where it is, and how to design around it.
when you go back to, well, what's your reasonable condition you can put on this one-lot subdivision to, you know, fit the area you're at? What is a reasonable condition? Is it not a buildable lot because it could increase an existing drainage problem, or do you force them to take all their downspouts out to the front and not in the back? I don't know if that's even possible.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm
Because of the
asking you,
grade.
our engineer.
Yeah, well, without having an actual site plan in front of you, you don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
so
It's hard to put limitations on something we don't have to file end use is going to be.
2 weeks ago, we had discussed something that would raise a red flag with
That's
a building permit issuance.
But that's what I was saying when, in past, you know, the 1 or 2 other occasions we've put notes onto a plat for areas like this, the problem was on that lot.
Right.
The drainage issue here is not with this lot in particular. If somebody built there, that house would not flood.
Right.
So what is a reasonable condition you can put on this one lot to, you know, prevent an existing condition off-site from getting worse?
Well, here's, you know, Rick, this kind of goes back to that other subject matter that we discussed a few weeks ago. We have a meets and bounds parcel that somebody could sell any day of the week. So now we have an opportunity for somebody to come in and create a one-lot subdivision, and it's simply that step in the process. And that's where we're at. So I think we can't perhaps deny that it's in an interesting geographical area, but changing a meets and bounds parcel to a one-lot, you know, preliminary plat, one-lot subdivision is separate from a site plan. So we shouldn't, I don't think, blur the lines as a commission on that subject matter. Now, if somebody decides someday to build a large home and we have much impervious surface, that's, I think, when those types of situations should be noted and denied or granted. I think, you know, we're stepping across the line.
But a year from now, or 2 years from now,
trying to tie this in.
but a year from now, or 2 years from now, the building department is just another address.
Yeah, I personally think, having walked it, that we as a town who allowed in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, we were certainly incorporated some of the houses in that little area to be granted a permit makes it troublesome at best. And the fix might be more than the properties that we're talking about. I don't know. I don't know what the appraised property values are. So I think that's where the spotlight should be shining. In my gut, from standing there and looking at, to the east where the new subdivision is, all the water kind of coming down the hill. And if any of you folks, are near there and understand the lay of the land, water is going to go where water is going to go. It's the path of least resistance. Now, I'm no civil engineer, but that's my take on it, Don. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are.
But we don't want to make the existing problem any worse.
No, I'm with you. But that's what,
So that's,
And at the
that's what everybody wants.
fair.
You're asking about reasonable conditions, the imposition of reasonable conditions. You may do that.
Yeah.
In
Is
this
it now or is it
situation, you may do that. So some language, some conditions developed that would highlight the necessity for engineering review of storm drainage runoff, storm drainage storage at the time an improvement location permit is pulled, might be the path. Then you have a survey, you have a one-lot subdivision, you have a parcel of record, lot of record, and there'll be a requirement by the approval for the platted lot that engineering of storm drainage occurs at that time.
Okay.
I mean, well, a reasonable condition, but this is why it's so hard to establish that when you don't know what's going to be on the parcel. I would say a reasonable...
That's why you say subject to...
Yeah, a reasonable condition would be to take as much of your roof line and your sump drainage out to Buff Drive or Cedar Street, but that may be virtually impossible depending on how they say, like, if it's a walkout or something like that, to lift all that up, but
You'd have to
It
bore
would be
underneath the
difficult.
road all the way out to the lake.
Okay. Are there any other comments regarding this item? From Monstrous Board, come to the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Mr. Lee Poor. I live at 13624 Cedar Street. My opinion is when we get a heavy rain and the lake is up, it's like a dam there. I watch it. Water's coming. It can't go into the lake as fast as it's coming down because the lake is up. You got your pipe here. The water is probably 3/4 of the way up from the pipe when the lake is high. Well, now that the lake is down, that water runs great. But when it's in the spring, when we get all the rain, that water does not flow that fast. You can see it trying to push its way out of the pipe.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to establish here is this particular piece of property, not letting it add to whatever the existing problems are.
Right, yeah, but you've got the 2 drains there that she has.
Yeah.
The water can't go down the drain.
So the reasonable condition that Mr. Austin has recommended was a stormwater review prior to permitting. I think is that basically it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Or whatever the end use is or proposed to be.
Yeah, and we would perform that anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of saying. No matter what it is.
No. The highlight of it is, going to Jerry's point, that a year from now or 3 years from now, it will be out of sight, out of mind. The thing's highlight is on the plat, and get it picked up by staff in its review process.
Are there anyone else like to speak on this item? Any remonstrance for or against? Anyone?
Yeah, my name is Debbie Gruitt, and I live in her house. And I don't know, this gentleman here, this is the lot where, that you're talking about. If you wouldn't mind just looking at this picture, it would kind of give you an idea. This is the lot right here that he wants to build on, or they want to sell.
Yeah,
Okay, you can see how steep it comes down around the corner, which is right there.
Yep.
That is his house right here. Okay, so.
Could I see it also?
Yes, sir.
Not mine.
So this is the lot, and it's up high. Our yard is back here. That's the lot. It's not only that area, it's also the area off of Morris Street, coming down the street.
Absolutely.
So it's also coming off of Morris Street. So we get it from off of Morris Street and then around Cedar Street. And plus we get it from behind and then the other street.
And again, what I'm trying to get at is we're dealing with this particular piece and its future effects or the lack of.
This would be what my front yard would look like after. That's my
What is
comment.
your name again?
Debbie Gruitt.
Oh, hi, Debbie. So, I don't know, I don't know what the storm board has thought about, but I think Debbie's backyard and the house to the north of that, and maybe the house to the northeast of that, should be a retention pond, or detention, so that it does exactly what that type of a functioning body of water is, because then it holds the water and lets it drain off at a constant rate, rather than being deluged, so that, to me, and unfortunately, it's not a happy sight, but I think from the storm board, that's almost the only fix, I think, by looking at the bottom of 136 and or by, their house. But again, it's site plan approval type discussion versus, building it one lot subdivision.
Hang on, and just so all of you know who spoke, we're all very familiar with that, compliments of Mr. Becker. But again, we're dealing with this one lot and its effects, if and when something else is done with it other than preliminary plat.
I would like Don to comment on, we're in the process of trying to purchase a lot to use it for detention. Would you talk about that? Through the storm board?
Yeah, as part of hazard mitigation grants through Department of Homeland Security through the state, there are opportunities to get grant funding to purchase repetitive loss structures, as they call them. And once you do that, you essentially tear it down, turn it into green space, or turn it into some type of detention like John was talking about. So Rick's been discussing that with DHS for quite a while now. We're moving along that path slowly, but it's moving. So, okay, little heads up. That's kind of going through the storm board right now.
And that is where
To be determined.
you folks are gonna
Highly
get
competitive.
a lot of your answers. Mr. Auction, is a reasonable condition really needed when it has to be reviewed for stormwater anyway?
That's up to you. That was in response to Don's inquiry about reasonable conditions. That could be one. It's more a notice item in my mind,
Yeah.
alerting.
I think it's a reasonable condition to at least reinforce the fact that we need to take a close look at whatever use comes for this lot in the future.
Okay.
Like David said, if for some reason this doesn't build out for 10 years and nobody's here, nobody's going to remember the discussions and maybe it gets missed. Hopefully it doesn't, but maybe it does.
Okay, is there any more remonstrance for or against this? Anyone? Last call. Okay, Mr. Smetanoff.
You did have a boat out there.
Yes, we did.
Everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
We're simply here for a one-lot subdivision. At this time, we'd ask that preliminary approval be given. If any concerns about the lot as a buildable site would come across, that would be at site plan and stormwater review. So at this time, we're just asking for your approval on the preliminary one-lot subdivision.
Okay. Dave? The notice and review has to happen here.
For the site plan?
Yeah. Well, for the preliminary approval.
The primary plat approval is before you have exclusive jurisdiction.
Preliminary plat support.
There's synonymous, you have to look in the statute,
Okay.
you see primary and secondary is what the statute says. We use the euphemism preliminary here, it's the same. And it doesn't mean preliminary, by the way, it means substantively, this is where the heavy action is, the backside of it is ministerial.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the extra attention needs to come internally.
Yes, but I mean, if you want to make a note on the plat that kind of reinforces that, that can be your decision.
Is there any recommendation from your storm board? It sounds like the storm board's looked at this over time, maybe in the last month or 2 months, given this petition being before you. Is there anything from the storm board that can help you?
I mean, we have a plan in place and a dollar amount taxed to it to replace that entire system. The reason we're going down the grant funding is that it may be cheaper to just buy a lot turned into detention versus installing an entirely new system.
So you're doing a watershed analysis?
Yes, we have. Modeled the existing system, proposed system. We're kind of going down this other path right now.
Where does this lot fall in the context of that watershed entirely?
It goes right to it. It's included in it.
So it's integral to the watershed solutions that you're looking for.
Yes.
Pretty important piece of land.
Yeah, and, Mr. Chairman, I would say again that, it is an important piece of land, but we want to encourage our residents, no matter where they live, geographically, on a 45-degree hill or flat land, to take these meets and bounds parcels and create one lot subdivisions. It's just cleaner, better for the community. Of course, all these lots were developed before we were a town. So we have lots of these all over the place. And I think we need to create a template so it's easier for folks to do this because it's not inexpensive. I don't know if any of you have had a survey, but it's expensive. To find 4 corners on a piece of property is a lot of money. And that's all we're really talking about tonight. So I understand that the area is what it is, and I think, again, it's storm site plan approval. And we shouldn't blur the two, but we can't, deny the fact of this one is, but, I think there's, enough scrutiny on it that, when the time is, if you're ready for a motion, I'd like to make a motion in that fashion.
Regarding a little added scrutiny?
The preliminary plat, approval for a preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision for this parcel.
With waivers.
And with the waivers that Don has in his letter, and I don't think we muddy the waters with the site plan and the stormwater drainage plan at this point in time. If and when somebody comes before us to build a house, that's when I think that should happen. They're two different subjects. That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Foreman. Do we have a second?
Well, repeat that so I understand.
You bet. My motion is to approve the primary plat for a one-lot subdivision with the exceptions noted in Don's letter, or waivers noted in Don's letter, period, at this time. With no contingencies on something in the future that we have no idea about. So, no additional comments. We're finding 4 corners on a piece of property and making it a one-lot subdivision.
I agree with what you just said, but should we note someplace on the plat that there's a potential problem with flooding on this piece of land, or?
No, the flooding's not on this land.
Excuse me, I realized that when I said it. But that it could create potential flooding to the neighborhood if something's built on it?
I personally think, from having been on this body for a long time, that they're two separate subjects. Preliminary plat, preliminary plat is, they're asking for a one-lot subdivision. We're just really finding the 4 corners. That's really all we're doing. I agree that when somebody decides to buy it, or these folks decide to build something, that's when all the scrutiny should happen.
I'll second your motion.
Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Dave, on a one lot for a subdivision ordinance, can't affect water flow downflow, the residents around the property?
If you're asking whether stormwater impacts are subject to your scrutiny and do an analysis of plat approval, which says the answer is yes, it could be. That's up to you. You have an engineer who's looked at it, your dialogue here talked about it. You have the professional who's presented you a plat. But the answer is yes. You guys have, as plan commission members, the exclusive jurisdiction over what happens here.
So it's sort of like 142nd Place. Years ago, somebody came in, asked for a permit on 142nd Place, or Avenue, got the permit, built the house 25 inches above the guy in the backyard. Nobody at the site plan approval process back in, I'm gonna say the late 90s, had enough common sense to go look at the property, and they granted the gentleman a permit, which in turn, when there was heavy rains, allowed for all the downspouts to go to the south and flood the folks that were a couple feet down below them. That's where we have allowed a new house to affect an existing property, and maybe two properties. It was, just east of the railroad tracks on 142nd Place. And we recently got involved and helped to mitigate that issue. In hindsight, that should have been caught when the folks that wanted to build a new house came in, whether they had a meets and bounds parcel or a one-lot subdivision, it had to go through the one-lot subdivision process. But when they did the site plan for building of the home, that's when that should have been addressed and said, hey, you must have your ejector, or not ejector pit, but your sump pit eject to the north, and your downspouts need to be routed to the north. And unfortunately, that didn't take place then. And I think our boards now are much more intelligent from that standpoint because of a lot of the new homes that have been built next to some of the older homes. And that's where this next step should take place.
But the watershed from this property, no matter what, is gonna impact the rest of the drainage. It's right here in the notes, minutes. It's under capacity, you cannot take any more water. And then you're gonna, if you had a structure, you had a driveway, you had sump pumps. Let's say someone else buys that property.
Sure.
And they do it. All of a sudden, what the town's gonna tell them, they're gonna, Judy, how long have you lived at that house?
About 13 years.
And how long have you been flooding?
Oh, ever since I've been there.
Yeah,
And, okay, so 13 years. She's still waiting for the flooding problem to fix.
Yeah, and
So you're gonna pass it on the buck to the next person that buys a property, and what, after they pay the money for the property, they're gonna wait 29 years to get the flooding fixed? Right now, we have the opportunity to make sure that doesn't happen.
When we fixed and put the curbs in on that road, out towards where those new 9 homes are being built, we theoretically took where water used to run off the road and funneled it all down to the manholes down where that home is, at the bottom of the hill, and then took it by these ladies' home. We added to it ourselves by adding curbs and forcing all that water down that hill. In the past, that water ran off the road and flooded uphill. It soaked into the ground.
No, it didn't.
So we didn't have enough money to fix it right, Chuck.
And
That's
then
the
the
truth.
other side, because it went to the back, because there's a drain in the back.
I understand. I walked it with you.
Because the top part of the road goes over.
Yep.
Now, we're talking about curbs. There's a curb right in front of this property. Should they have a curb in front of their property? Because it's the next curb over to their neighbors, 58 feet away. Of course, the town would probably have to do that 58 feet before they, tap into that in front of their property.
I know you're very passionate about this, and I know these people know exactly what you're saying to be true. There's been a motion and a second.
That's right.
Only thing anybody wants here is for details.
Yes.
It says, this needs close-up review.
Yeah,
And not having that at the building department a year from now, 5 years from now, I think is a disservice.
Sure. And I think you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman, and I would say that this is truly not a one-lot subdivision issue as much as it is really a town issue with that geographical area. In making a meets and bounds parcel, a one-lot subdivision is about 4 posts in the corners that are in the right spot and the legal matches. So that's my gut, that's how I've always...
So amending your motion to include some kind of caveat on the plat is not to your liking.
I just don't, Mr. Eberly, in the past, you've been a planner for many years. Have these been blurred, like we were discussing? I may ask your professional opinion.
Well, I can tell you that I've not seen a comment on a final plat like Don's referring to that you've done in the past. I've not seen that added to a plat necessarily, on a final plat.
If I might interject as well, I do a lot of municipal work myself, and I've never heard of this before. So,
I knew this was gonna get into more of a stormwater discussion than a preliminary plat discussion.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, I would say that I would leave my motion the way it is, and it absolutely, you know, is a storm board / site plan, building time issue.
So we have a motion by Mr. Foreman. We have a second by Mr. Kapora. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
No.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
No.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
thank you very much.
Good night.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if we have everything in line, I would anticipate this coming back to you next month for your work session and public hearing, or public meeting for final plat,
Okay.
provided they have everything to done in time for review.
If there is a file in this item, an extra colorful piece of paper in there with some notes, I would appreciate.
If I may add a note, one of the things, as John noted with that one parcel, one of the things that has become practice in the building department is anything in these pre-platted older subdivisions where a new home or new structure is being built. Your building administrator, your director of operations, as well as Don, is involved in initial review of those plans.
You said initial review.
In the review before a permit would be issued.
Okay.
And then we also are requiring as-built on everything that is being built now.
Correct.
So some of the processes from 1990 to now have changed.
Very good.
So I just wanted to
Okay.
mention that to you.
And folks that live in and around this area, everyone in the organization in our town is well aware of the drainage issues, and hopefully the Department of Homeland Security grants come through, and some may be lucky, some may be unlucky when the appraisals come in for buying their home, right? It's a challenging thing, so bear with us. Hopefully it'll work out for the best for everybody.
For how long?
Hopefully forever. It needs to be, if there's that much crop from there to the lake, should be larger pipes and retention
I mean,
to drain it at a
how
better
long
rate.
can you keep going? 13 years we've been
Yeah.
flooded there. Will it another 13 years?
I understand.
I don't get it that bad because I'm higher, but she gets, I mean, when I get up in the morning, and when we have a flood, she looks like she's on an island.
Yeah.
We're not talking 6 inches. You can't have 2 storm drains there going into one small pipe. I see the water coming down the side of my house, going into the lake, and you can see it's trying to push the water in the lake out so the drain can go. Once it settles and stops raining, yeah, then it seeps out slowly. But the damage is done then.
Right, it needs a retention pond to the north, the house.
Well, we need, honestly,
Most
we
likely.
need something.
Yes,
She can't live like that.
yes.
I mean, it's just unbearable. I mean, to get up, you can't even go to work. I mean, they can't even get to their cars.
This grant that they're talking about is something that the town council can keep you up to date on.
And I understand the grants. I'm in business myself. But, when you deal with the government, how long does it take to get a grant?
I understand.
I'm dealing with this COVID-19 now, with grants with the state of Illinois, and it's a nightmare. And you know how it goes when you go with grants. They promise you, and that. Like I said, she suffered 13 years so far with all this water. She pays her taxes, she keeps her house, it's immaculate, and it's very well kept up. And then she's got to come, and once they flood, the flood waters go down, she's got a mess there. And it's not like she's got people, run over her house and help her all the time. It's just 2 girls, or 3 girls. That's it. So, I mean, I think this has got to be a priority thing.
Yeah. I don't think that this is the venue for that, but as I told Mr. Svetnoff, this was going to be a conversation of stormwater.
Yeah.
And what the stormwater board may or may not do, what the town council may get in grant money or not, I don't know. So, anyone else have anything? Okay, we're gonna move on to item 7. Weir's rezone Owner, John and Darlene Boersma, 11703 Upper Peninsula Lane, St. John. Petitioner, Jeff Weirs, Electric Power Solutions LLC, P.O. Box 712, St. John, Indiana, 46373. The vicinity is 12828 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana, 46303. Petitioner is requesting a rezone from Neighborhood Business B1 zoning to General Business B3 zoning.
Good evening, Ryan Maravich, DVG Team, 1155 Trout Line Road, Crown Point, Indiana. I'm here with Mr. Weirs and Mr. Van Croyen, who are the owners of Electric Power Solutions, and who will be developing this property. We're requesting the rezone from B1 to B3.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Austin.
It is a public hearing, the legals are in order.
Okay. Okay. Don, do you have any comments on this? We did, this was gonna be all on the state line, and we just got finished discussing.
Yeah.
Stormwater to the west of that property has got to be dealt with.
But that won't affect them.
All right, building department, anything on this item?
No, as noted at your previous meetings, this is on your US 41 corridor. You recently just had your comprehensive plan updated for the US 41 corridor. They had met with Rick. I was unavailable that day, and the recommendation for what they want to do would fit within the B3 zoning.
Okay.
They would be coming back for you for plating and site plan.
That's when the stormwater will be dealt with.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, do any of the commissioners have any concerns, questions about this item, comments?
I just was gonna ask your petitioners if, I think it's a great idea, and Electric Power Solutions, is it commercial, industrial, residential? You guys?
All the above.
Oh, okay.
Good, John?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I think it would be a good fit for that area. Yep.
Okay. Not bringing up stormwater again.
For another day.
Do you have anything else?
I think that's it for now. We're soon, hopefully soon to be into the design process of the site.
Okay. All right, if the commissioners have no more questions, would anyone like to make a motion regarding this rezone from B1 to B3? Yeah.
This is public hearing,
Oh,
it
sorry.
doesn't show on
Sorry.
this agenda that
Okay,
you solicit, but you need to.
okay. Have a seat, Ryan, real quick. Is there anyone in the audience remonstrance for or against this zone change? Going once, going twice? Okay. Ryan, step back up, please. Okay. If there's no more questions, would anyone like to make a motion regarding this B1 to B3 zoning change?
Recommendation for town council?
It is.
Favorable recommendation.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Chuck for favorable recommendation to the town council for the B1 to B3 zone change. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I like your shirt, sir. You guys are in the wrong part of the state.
Hey, that's like talking about stormwater right now.
My wife's a Bears fan, so
That's a touchy
subject.
Guts to wear it up here, partner. I love it.
That, I won't argue with you about. Okay, item 8, Cedar Lake Ministries, PUD, rezone preliminary plat, owner petitioner Cedar Lake Conference Association, 13701 Lowerman, P.O. Box 665, Cedar Lake, Indiana. The vicinity is 8861 West 141st 141st. 137.
Yeah, it's typo.
Okay. Not paying attention.
It's 8861 West 141st is the Bird's property, and it's not, it doesn't belong to us, but the street address is correct.
That was too fast around the block.
It's all good.
Okay, petitioner is requesting a rezone from R1 and PUD to a PUD. This has gotten a lot of work completed, maybe a little more to go. Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Nice to see you all again this evening. My name is John R. Terpstra. I'm the attorney for Cedar Lake Ministries. Address is 2211 Main Street, Suite 3-2A, Highland, Indiana 46322. As was just mentioned by Mr. Chairman, we are here on a three-part petition. The first part to be a rezone from R1 and PUD to simply a PUD. Second, for preliminary plat approval for a one-lot subdivision as designated by Unit 2 in the PUD document. And portion 3 of that petition is approval or a favorable recommendation to the council to approve the PUD contract as amended. It's my understanding that there are some individuals here in the audience that would like to address the commission this evening, so maybe a good way to handle that would be to allow them to speak first, and then I'll come up and give a few closing remarks, and we can move forward from there.
Okay, before you sit down, though, I had a couple of questions. Are the people who live in the area, visit the area, are they privy to these documents that we have here?
Yeah, so there was a meeting with the homeowners, the residents, they're not the renters, but the cottagers, so we call them cottagers, last month before the work session. And this document was circulated and it was discussed at that meeting. And the content of it, the challenges that we've encountered with it, the process that both myself, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Holes from DVG, Mr. Everly and his staff, Attorney Austin as well, was all explained to the cottagers there. And they were anticipating this meeting, this public hearing, for a vote and approval of the PUD document itself. So to the extent that they are in the know, that they understand the process that we've gone through, they understand the document as it stands, they know what it means, they know what it says, they understand that if they are to take any action to improve, alter, or redevelop any property, they still need to come to this town and submit a plat, a formal plat, and to have that approval process go through before a permit will be issued. There are several permits that are pending, as you may know, from cottagers as well. That was an item that was discussed. The timing on those, they've been in limbo for quite some time, so there was some frustration. So we are tempering some of that as well, but we are excited to continue to move forward and hopefully get this thing over the finish line.
Well, just for full transparency, Mr. Peterson and I briefly talked on the phone this past Monday.
Yeah, all the dates seem to run together. So.
Yeah, he's included the detail along the lakefront, the swimming pier, the boat pier, and a few other things, the buildings that can be improved.
Yep.
Along and what lots they're on. I'm under the impression that you and Mr. Austin are working over the legal details.
Yep,
Okay.
we are.
Okay.
Yep, and I have an idea on that, but I may let the public comment first, and then I'll circle back and
Very
close
good.
it out.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Please have a seat, and
Yep.
I'll solicit remonstrance.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? The Cedar Lake Ministries, PUD, rezone, preliminary plat, modifications. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jerry Tessarola, 13701 Lowerman, cottage number 34, Cedar Lake, Indiana. I'd just like to say a few words, give me a few minutes if I could. I appreciate the commission's giving me this time. Cedar Lake Ministries is a unique property. Okay, we've been here for 100 years. Some of it looks like it. Okay, I grant you that. We were here before the town was here. We were founded in 1905 by Moody Church. We're a Christian camp and retreat center founded by Moody Church. A lot of times, for years and years, the town thought we were a cult because they didn't know who we were. In addition, the ministry leases parcels of property to individuals and families for a term of 99 years. Those individuals and families can build a home on that property and stay there for the 99 years. Now, the homes do not share the tax-exempt status of the ministry. Okay, the homes are taxable edifices. The homeowners pay property taxes to Cedar Lake and Lake County. Right now, there are 70 property tax-paying homes on the ministry grounds. Okay, homeownership comes with, the understanding of privileges and rights. We have been operating under a PUD for about 10 years. A little over a year ago, the town of Cedar Lake basically took away our property rights. Okay, we were told no more. We're not going to issue any more permits until you get a new PUD. We set to work to form a new PUD. Okay, we spent countless hours. Nate Peterson, John Terpstra, I'm sure not pro bono, Jack Halls, myself, Brent Knoll, our executive director. We spent a lot of time working on it, and we've been coming to these meetings for almost 9 months. And each time we're told needs more study, or didn't have time to review, or needs changes. And each time we make the changes, and we come back to the meeting, and we're given new changes to make. For over a year, we've not been able to improve our property, renovate our homes, build new homes. Those who've been waiting to build homes have seen their prices increase by $100,000 over that year. I mean, who's going to pay for that? It's just, basically what we're saying is that we're the taxpayers, Cedar Lake Ministry. We respectfully ask the commission to return our property rights and give us a vote. The distinguished members of this commission have been appointed to these positions because people trust your judgment to do what's right for the citizens of this town. And all we're asking the members of this commission to do is to assert the authority you've invested with, give us a vote, and restore our property rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to comment on Cedar Lake Ministries agenda item? Questions, comments? Sure, Mr. Terpstra, step back up.
So that's a kind of the sense of the frustration that we have from the cottagers, which is understandable. But,
well, it is.
But there has been a lot of progress.
It is. There's been a lot of progress.
Agreed.
This Jerry and that Jerry might not agree on the accuracy of the months and the years and the time, but
yep.
I understand the frustration.
Yes.
I hear it otherwise.
Yeah.
And Nate knows the history. I know the history, and a couple other people in this room know the history. So getting it right is important.
Yep, and I've learned that over time as well.
What I saw were corrections, the last batch of corrections from our legal team. This is certainly not ready tonight.
Okay. Well, let me address that a little bit, okay? We wanted predictability on how this property was going to be maintained and developed. We've gotten to that point. We've spelled out pretty specifically within the document itself how things are now. We've pulled in bulk standards from your ordinance. Those properties that are not in compliance with those bulk standards cannot be improved or altered to increase the amount at which they are out of the ordinance, okay? We're looking at retention of your right for review by the town, which we've done. We've written that into the document. We've said that, number one, the plat needs to be submitted to the town. But not only that, it needs to be accompanied by approval by the board of directors of the Cedar Lake Ministries grounds itself. Then it will go through the review process through the building commission. The building commission will put whatever restrictions or conditions they have on issuing that permit, and we'll move forward. We have come a long way in developing within the document how we maintain development standards. We know that the streets are narrow. We know that there are drainage issues. We know that there could be, and I hate to bring up drainage again, but there could be challenges to drainage in the future. That's why we've developed a drainage and stormwater management agreement to accompany this PUD document itself. That's all going to be done at the expense of Cedar Lake Ministries. Along with that, if there's any further development on the roadways, we're going to enhance the ability of emergency vehicles to access the properties, because really, what we're looking at here is public safety. We're not just looking at predictability, we're not just looking at whether it looks nice, whether they're doing something right or wrong or indifferent, we're really looking at public safety. And I think that we've solidified that within the document as it stands. We are of the opinion that the document is ready, that it's ready to go, that you guys should put it to vote and should approve it. Now, I understand, speaking with Mr. Austin as well, that there are some legal issues that he and I need to work through. The time that has been spent exhaustively between Mr. Eberly, Ms. Murr, their staff, you, Jerry, who have been really, really good with us, also with Mr. Austin, seems to indicate to me that the time spent with the commission is pretty exhaustive. Mr. Oliphant has made his recommendations as well, which we have incorporated into the document itself from an engineering perspective. I don't know if there's much more discussion that we can have with the commission itself. That's the reason that I would like to recommend that perhaps the commission be creative with its vote tonight and approve, or at least vote on, the petition as it stands, the PUD document as it stands, the drainage and stormwater management agreement as it stands, but put a condition that it is subject to legal review through your attorney, Mr. Austin, who will work with myself to finalize this document and get it ready for September 7th. That way, we will all be on a timeline to get this approved before the council with a favorable recommendation on the 7th. That gives us 2.5 weeks. I believe Mr. Austin and I can get it done in 2.5 weeks. I really have no doubt in that. It will also keep our feet to the fire. Lawyers get busy and lawyers do other things. We have other clients, which is shocking, but that will also keep our feet to the fire and ensure that we grind it out and get it done. I don't think that that is out of your authority to put that condition on this approval tonight. That says, we're comfortable with it from a commission perspective. We're satisfied with the specificity of the document. We're satisfied with the engineering requirements that Cedar Lake Ministries is undertaking at their own expense so that we don't increase drainage problems that may occur either on the Cedar Lake Ministries grounds or at an adjoining development. All of this seems to indicate that the commission is satisfied, the commission is happy, and the commission can approve. However, there's corporate counsel who advises this commission, which I acknowledge and I understand and I enjoy because I'm a lawyer myself. But I think that it would be prudent to approve, or at least put a vote for a favorable recommendation to the council to approve this petition as it stands, subject to legal review and recommendation from legal that it in fact be put before the council for approval. That's what I would recommend. Because I just don't think there's anything else that is going to come out of the commission, out of Mr. Manager, Mr. Eberly, out of Jill Murr from the building commission department. I just don't see those details coming from the commission. The only thing that's left is for lawyers to do lawyer things.
Well, and I understand what you're requesting. I think everyone else up here understands what you're requesting. Contingencies is what you're asking for. Is not something we try to take too lightly. And because of the 100-year history and everything that goes along with this, I'm not real warm and fuzzy about that contingency. I looked at Mr. Austin's red line document, the latest one that he sent you, and I'm not close to being a lawyer, but there was a lot of pieces to that were a little concerning. It met the ordinance in part, but not in whole. So that's where I'm at personally with this and your request. May anyone else have any comments regarding Mr. Terpstra's?
Well, Mr. Terpstra's last comments were interesting because I was going to ask you, Mr. Austin, if we could move forward with some of these approvals contingent upon legals being worked out, whether it be within the next 2 weeks or the next 3 weeks. I think it is frustrating for people that own homes to not be able to get permits. However, I was under the impression when this started a year ago that you guys wanted to do it to make it easier for people to walk in that front door to the counter and not have to go through all the variance processes and everything. So that's why, isn't that why this all got started initially?
Well, that's true, but we're talking about cottagers. When we get into all those other pieces of property,
right,
and meets and bounds and uses and all those other things, that's where this thing got a little slowed down.
I see.
And this started a year and a half
But
ago.
I think what you have done is excellent, and it's painstaking, and we've been a part of it along the way, but it's excellent because it's gonna make it easier for people to do what they wanna do.
Yeah, and to your point, it
Without
does,
variances and wasted time.
and to your point, it does do that. It does reach that goal.
Right.
It allows a cottager to come in, ask for a permit, as long as they're within the parameters of the PUD document. You don't need to come before the BZA. You don't need to come before the Plan Commission.
Yeah, me personally, I think we've vetted this thing as much as we can vet it at a commission level, and that's why I asked the question, for your opinion.
Is that an open question, may I answer it?
Sure, your answer, John's question, please.
You know, I haven't been around for the entire 100 years, but I've been around for the last 30. The last 30 include the resolution of the sanitary sewer issue of the town with these folks. It took years. In fact, by the time I came onto it, it had been about 10, 12 years in the making. It was resolved in a couple of years. In '94, there was the first PUD, the first development plan, the first kind of figuring out how to regulate this under the police powers of the town because they had property rights and we had authority. In 2000, 2002, property tax appeals and related, they all existed. Later in 2010 up to 2011, PUD revisions that had complete surveying activity and legal descriptions. So I'm pretty familiar with what goes on here, and I respect this organization, this community tremendously. But there's a lot of legal to it. It's a complex community. It's a complex land use. It's a complex piece of land. So I'm a little surprised to hear John tonight. I am surprised actually to hear you ask to push this through with contingencies, because in my opinion, I have not briefed you, nor have I ever met with and talked to Rick Everly. I am aware that your staff has had numerous communications with representatives of the ministry's property. I'm not privy to a single syllable of what has transpired between them and them. So I can't answer the question fairly. And as I explained, and I shared this with John, I wasn't part of it, and I don't know how much he was part of it. So the two lawyers are out there on the island duking it out when the clients are in the background making the deal.
I would characterize it as friendly shoving. I don't know if we're duking it.
Well, it could be Cedar Lake version WWE, at least at the beginning. So, John, to answer your question fairly and honestly, I need time to review this with you. There's a development agreement. Ultimately, the town council have to check off on it, and we get through that, we're going to be good to go.
So therefore, if there was a contingency on legal, whether the legal takes 2 weeks or 6 weeks,
No.
At the commission level.
Let me finish then.
Let's move
I
it forward.
postcode of this. That's leaving the lawyers to be the decision makers, and we should not be that in this. This is going to be generational. It's going to take it'll be in place for decades. This is not where the lawyers belong. This is where the community and the town leadership belong in making policy decisions. If you say move to adopt subject to the lawyers finishing it, you know what that is? That's punting.
So your recommendation is?
Let us finish. We need to come back here. I don't have a problem a couple weeks with John. We're going to get it exchanged. I've given him something now. He's given me something coming back. I didn't see it today, but
So your legal opinion is a deferral versus a?
Well, I don't care how it goes to the next meeting, but I would not counsel you to act on the three pending matters.
This is this close.
It truly is. I mean, we're like at 85%, 90% on the hill. We're not going to let it roll back down to the bottom. But the last 10%, the last 10 feet of Himalaya is the hardest 10 feet.
Yeah. And I understand the frustration from you and anyone else who's trying to do something.
Yep.
But with that said, the way this started out, and when the line got drawn in the sand, was long after Mr. Matua was in here. We made these 3 lots, 1 lot, this lot here, the south side, the old wood shop, the north woods. We squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And Mr. Kubiak said, when are 10 small changes, 1 big change? Where are we at here?
Yep.
So we were very accommodating all this time, even on the BZA, for the cottagers who, you know, this guy wanted to do this, and he's taken a third of my view of the lake away.
Yep.
I mean, that's where this got vetted here. So I understand what you're asking for, but I just, against legal advice, I just,
I have a question for you,
Yes, sir.
Jerry. You said you got a red up marked copy, was that of the PUD agreement?
That was a review, Mr. Austin's review of the last time.
And that wasn't shared with the rest of us?
It was done within the last week, Bob.
I didn't see that.
I understand, that's exactly part of the point here.
Now, I hate hearing that you got something and it wasn't shared.
That goes to exactly what Mr. Austin's talking about. These 2 are talking, everybody else is talking, and I sit here and I say all the time, just for full transparency, I talk to Nate, just for example. There's conversations happen here, there's conversations happen on the phone. I try to keep even my conversations with Don, yes or no questions, because I don't want these kinds of things happening. The legals are not ready. That's the bottom line here.
And they're available for you.
So, Mr. Chairman, what I would like to propose then is that we try to see if we can get this thing done for our first work session in September and
As a
schedule this
special
as
meeting?
a special public meeting, just so we don't smoke the month of September away. In the event folks are still trying to build a deck, a shed, or whatever.
All right.
If we're able to pull it off, that is.
Would anyone concur with Mr. Foreman about a special meeting in 2 weeks at the next work session?
I would.
Okay.
It's-
Bob's on board.
Just to get it done. We need to get it done. Is all the PUD done, or is that part of the legals that you're talking
Those
about?
are the legals. I need a chance to meet with you as a commission to review the documents that we're exchanging, so that we can have an informed discussion and a decision by you.
First Tuesdays only.
We don't have that yet. John's gonna have.
And to the extent that I can be available for any of that, I'll make myself available, because I advocate for my client. The only way I could see this possibly going through was with the conditional recommendation that I made tonight. I have to advocate for my client, so I'm sorry, I'm surprised I worked with you, had
quite
known
honestly,
earlier that was gonna be the case.
And quite honestly, Commissioner, if you think about it, if we did a special public meeting on September 1st, and we were able to have it ironed out by then, arm wrestling or whatever you called it, then we have a council meeting the 7th, and we can be done with it. If in fact, we're able to get that 15% squared away on a special public meeting. That's the
John,
theory in the
I will
mind.
be, if you need me at that meeting, I will not be in town.
You will not?
I will.
On the September 1st, you mean?
September 1st.
Well, if you give us a thumbs up, and
No.
between now and then, we
With all
don't
due
need you to
respect,
be.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna meet with you, I'm gonna look you eyeball to eyeball and talk you through it. It's a complex document, as I started by introduction.
So special public meeting doesn't meet the timeline. Okay.
Because, you know, he has to go through legals. He still has to turn around and explain to us. How's he gonna do that if there's already a special public meeting?
I'm just trying to be creative.
View it.
Just trying to be
before-
creative.
And
So it's really
and I-
4 weeks
and-
then, we need a month to the next.
Well, I don't know how
We have
this
another
can't be
attorney?
done, how this cannot be done in a month. I just don't see how it cannot be done.
I can't agree with
You're
you.
not leaving the country again, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
Do you have another
No.
attorney on your staff that could, or is it too much to pick up at this?
I've read
point?
every word of this file,
Okay.
and for 30 years.
The month of September is a good month to build, if
You
folks
want
want to
me to
build,
hand
it's
this off
a
now?
challenge.
Don't put chuckles in the record, okay?
There'll be people in here at the counter the day after. There's no doubt in my mind.
It just seems like it's so close, yet so far away, you know?
May I
speak, please?
Yeah. Have a seat, Mr. Terpstra.
Brian?
Okay, come on up.
I mean,
I already asked for remonstrance, but
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to.
You have to say your name and your address, okay?
yeah.
Brent Knoll, 9320 West, 137th, west of 137th, Cedar Lake, Indiana. John, to your point, I've been here a number of times, and we've had multiple conversations with the town, represented this commission, your lawyer, he's representing us. What more do we need to do? He's acting on our behalf. 8 months, a year. We have put a PUD in front of legal counsel for months. That's the frustration. Not only for the community, but the staff. You guys don't have to deal with the calls. I do. I just urge you, I mean, how long do we wait? We've done everything we've been asked of. And even more in many cases. Cost on our behalf, time on our behalf. It just gets to the point of frustration, and it's beyond.
And you know what? I know you've sat here all these times, and you know what? I'm frustrated with it too. But everybody seems to have their interpretation of the timeline and how this all started. And it has been a wiggly road.
Right.
It has.
In 19, at the end of the year, okay, we came before you with an idea of doing a high ropes course.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it was first brought up with the Northwoods area means and bounds.
Yes.
Then we went through the hoop of who has the official document, and we went on the hunt. And lo and behold, we do have official documents. So we went through your hoop in that way. So, and then there was the characterization is we did nothing. When we actually had an idea and we were told, no, you can't do it. So we had to go through the hoops, find the documents, and now we're going the extra step and we're adding all the cottager things into that with the zoning.
And that's in totality of meeting the ordinance. There's been things done in there, in property we're talking about. There's been things done in there, improvements and otherwise, in the midst of all this also. So I'm not saying you guys have done nothing. I'm saying after the high rope course, things went dark for a while. And then things started rolling again. And Jack Hulls is at the podium. I understand you're frustrated. I'm tired of hearing about it too. I am. I'm tired of hearing about it. But we're that close. And against...
The town placed an R2 zoning because there was no definition on the main grounds. So the town made that decision, and we stopped. And we're going down the road that the town has asked us to do. We have done nothing as citizens, as a part of the community. We've done nothing but follow and going with you on this. That's all I'm saying.
And I think we're gonna...
Is it gonna be another month? Is it gonna be another 2 months? How much longer? That's all I'm asking.
I'm with you. Well, okay.
Thank you.
You're with him.
No, I mean, I understand,
Hang on,
I
Mr.
understand what
Nolan.
he's saying.
Hang on.
How much
He's
longer?
suggesting we're moving the bar. All right,
Well,
you agree
wait a
with him? Well, he said, how much more? How
He
much
just-
more we have to do?
They just
How many
want to
more
go
hoops?
overtime.
No, I understand, but he's suggesting we're moving the bar.
So,
We're not
so,
moving
so
the bar.
let's not get on that
Yeah, no, I
topic of
agree
rhetoric,
with the bar, Jerry.
okay? Let's
Okay.
avoid it,
I don't think
because
he-
we're where we are now, we don't need to rehash the past. So let's see where we are now, let's see what dates make sense for us. Let's set some deadlines, because people work better with deadlines when they're up against the wall. There's actually scientific evidence that studies have shown that people are way more productive when they know they're working up against the wall.
April 15th is pretty important for...
That's right, okay, and everybody gets their ducks in a row, right? So let's figure out some dates. Let's figure out when we can get together. Let's figure out how the lawyers can get this thing across the finish line. If that means that Mr. Oster needs to schedule time with the commission before Mr. Oster and I get together again, that's fine, but let's
let's have some clarity on those dates.
And
I think you
Mr.
guys-
Chairman,
I think-
you know, I understand that you received the letter and that sort of thing. Rick and Jill, have you also seen the red line letter?
Yes.
Okay. And, asking you for your advice, the two of you, having seen the letter, would you think, trying to schedule a special, public meeting for September and/or approving things tonight with the contingencies on legal would be irresponsible on the commissioner's behalf?
In my opinion, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I just got the letter
All right.
this afternoon
My-
from you.
My opinion is that this is next gonna be, the next opportunity for you to discuss this with Dave is gonna be at your September 15th Plan Commission meeting. That is followed the next week on the 21st by a town council meeting. So this could be wrapped up by September 21st if everything gets ironed out between the two attorneys between now and then, and Dave can have that conversation with this commission on September 15th. It could go to the council on September 21st and be done at that point. You've got in the meantime, on September 1st, you've got a work session that if Mr. Terpstra elects to attend that meeting, there can be some dialogue in between. But Mr. Austin can't be here on the 1st, so the 15th is going to be the important meeting to get us that much closer to the finish line. The finish line, I think we should all be hoping that the finish line is the 21st of September.
Sure, so then at the September 1st meeting, we should at least have a copy of the letter with the red line, so we can at least.
We can get that to you
get
tomorrow.
familiar.
We should have a total correction
Okay.
of all the.
I don't wanna see a red line copy, I wanna see the final product,
Yeah.
so we can move on
Right,
and
but
get
I
off
think
this
it'd
thing.
be nice we could.
I agree,
post
John.
that.
I don't know that you want that,
And
but you can have it.
Bob, to your point about the red line, I solicited that in a way myself, because my phone's blowing up all the time about the ministries, in part. I was trying to figure out where the legal teams were. That was shared with me by Dave. This is what I've just completed. I scrolled through it, lot of corrections.
But I get frustrated being on the town council if I go out there in the public and people are telling me stuff
Yeah, I understand.
about something I have no clue about.
Right, I understand, but this was corrections to a PUD document. This wasn't about water in the ditch, as we heard last night.
Okay, so we're gonna meet September 15th, that's the deadline?
Well, I would suggest, that Jerry, as the president of the Plan Commission, you solicit a motion to defer this matter. I don't know what you said if you closed the public hearing or not, but if you can leave it open and you want to leave it open, you can do that, unless you've already closed it. I don't recall what you said when.
It didn't get closed.
I'm sorry?
It didn't get
All right, so continue the public hearing to the 15th of September, and I think that's where we should hope that we wrap this up at this level, ready for you as a commission to make your two recommendations to the council and your action on the primary plan.
Okay.
Jill, did you?
Well, I just wanted to ask the question, since this would go in front of you for your September 1st work session, and you would put in guidance on me receiving documents by the Friday before at noon for inclusion in your packet, but that being a work session, are you accepting documents up to the moment before the meeting?
No, I think we need to stick to the
So I would need documents by August 27th at noon for your work session on September 1st. I also wanted to note that one of the things that went through the staff review pointed out by Michelle is that the Unit 2 that we're discussing, so that's the RV park area, that lot, which is noted in your packet, has an R1 parcel on it, so adding that R1 parcel, because there's mixed zoning there, into the PUD zoning that property currently has. That's the smaller of these steps.
The more exhibits, the better.
So I put together an exhibit for you, kind of outlining those, just so it's a little clearer. That's the smallest of the steps, I think, on this whole entire process. And then the preliminary plat is only for that unit 2, that RV park. This is 2 separate, the cottagers lots and the RV park. And I just wanted to make sure everyone, if I didn't express that clearly enough before, or it hadn't been, I just wanted to express that.
The RV park is gonna be its own motion, right?
Correct.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
And then they will all be combined into the PUD amendment document. It is 2 separate plats of subdivision. Am I saying that correctly? They're not being combined into 1 2-lot subdivision. So I just wanted to make sure that I stated that.
That's clarity I've asked John for in the document, to be honest with you, because I didn't know.
Well, you suggested leaving the past alone.
Correct.
Are you comfortable with the deferral?
If that's going to get us there most efficiently, then yes.
Okay.
I would rather have it that way than put it to a vote and have it be denied and start over.
I understand.
100%.
I understand. Does anybody have any concerns, personal or otherwise, with the timeline up to date?
Just that it can be met, right? It can be met and will be met. That's my only concern.
We hope. I mean, who knows? I mean, the comments that Rick said and the things that David said are what we have to make our decision on. So I think it sounds promising. I think get to that 15% down to hopefully 0, right? That's the objective. I agree with that.
Me too.
Okay.
That's good that you have to agree.
So I
For all
guess,
the folks waiting to get permits and things, I apologize on behalf of the commission, but sometimes these are brutal sitting up here sometimes. I'll say that.
If we have questions about the PUD itself, do we go to the cottager, the lawyer, or do we talk to you?
well, I would suggest you get a copy of the PUD.
I have one.
Okay?
You're welcome to
I can send it to you.
do either, I suppose, and if need be, you can come to the town.
At this point, that should be a Mr. Terpstra.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have questions
Single
about
point of
the
contact.
water flooding
Sure.
issue, item 6, the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
That should
rain
be
garden
offline
next
with
to
Mr.
Unit
Turk.
5, which
Yeah.
is just
Yeah, that
the-
makes sense. That's still approved.
There's a lot of stormwater improvements on those documents. The water garden was a Don idea, I think.
No.
No?
No.
No? Okay. It wasn't a Don idea, but I know who it was.
Don knows how to make it work.
Don knows how to make it work. So,
It was just not approached to the people who it's going to be next to, is the situation.
I got you. I'm guessing the office can provide you some drawings.
Okay.
If staff here has anything more and you'd like to get it from them, that would be probably easy to do also.
I just didn't know if it was a town thing or because, again, cottagers.
Yeah, there's
hold-
a lot of details to the stormwater on the south property line.
Right?
It is a really good idea the way it is. However, I certainly can see where people living there will have some questions,
Yes.
so.
That's a me issue.
Okay.
So,
I will talk to you then.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and again, it was, seems like it's gonna solve a lot of problems, so.
Don, some of the stuff they're going to do, we have storm problems at 137th and Larman, and some of the stuff they're going to do is going to help alleviate some of that?
Not necessarily alleviate it, it provides a potential outfall for it. And the Unit 2 plat will have an easement to get to a ditch that they've constructed, so it provides another option.
It will also provide, Bob, stormwater for 2 3/4 acres, and looks like on paper will resolve a stormwater issue on the far north end of Houston Street also. And that's all at the ministry's expense. So we've gotten this dialed in pretty pretty tight, and, again, the legals are the hang-up, so. Mr. Terpstra, are you requesting a deferral?
At this time, I would request a deferral. That seems to be the most efficient way to move this along and get the process completed.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to defer this item?
Mr. President, could I ask Mr. Austin, can this be done, David, in one motion as opposed to a deferral, three different deferrals for all three?
We can, all three items can be included.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to defer all three items, A, B, and C, regarding...
I'd like to make a motion to defer all three items, A, B, and C.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sharp, second by...
Of the
Cedar Lake Ministries.
Cedar Lake Ministries, CUD amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Second by Mr. Kapora, to the light, roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commission members.
And anything you get that we might all like, please get it out. Anything you guys get, great.
Yes, sir.
So,
We'll be in touch.
okay.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, I believe we have one more item here.
Electric Power Solutions couldn't get enough of this meeting, huh?
Interesting.
Have a good day. You guys do PLC programming and stuff like that?
Not this time, pretty much everything else.
Okay, item 9. Cedar Lake Storage LLC.
Heels, looks like heels to me.
Okay, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, final plat, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, 9019 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner Tim Porter, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, 9019 West 133rd Avenue. Vicinity 9011, 9019 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting a final plat. Hello, Ryan.
Good evening, again. Ryan Maravich, DVG Teams, 1155 Troutline Road, Crown Point, Indiana. I'm here on behalf of Tim Porter and the Porters. We're actually requesting a deferral to allow some the review comments to be completed, to allow the letter of credit to be established, and then a few other outstanding items. We feel that it would be a cleaner process if we just defer it to September.
Okay. Joe, anything regarding, any other caveats regarding this?
No, I agree, coming out of the BZA meeting last week, I agree with that. I think we'll have a cleaner product moving this to your next meeting, your next work session and public meeting.
Well, getting this dialed back in was a good thing. Mr. Kapora, you were at the BZA meeting?
Is this going to be deferred to the work session, or?
Well, I would encourage any information to be at the work session.
Yeah, well, we anticipate, well, the final plat is probably substantially complete now, but I know for the work session, we'll be on there for the site plan. And the site plan is dialed in, and there's more clarity, and some of the changes that have happened in the past were back to pavement and pretty much the original engineering of the plan with the striping, so.
So the future building is not there anymore?
No, that was one of their ideas, and I think it was in reaction to, they weren't sure what their business was going to be. Was it going to be more outside storage, or was it going to be more indoor storage? So that was maybe a knee-jerk reaction to put that on there. So after going through this whole process, I recommended that let's stick with, we know about the pavement now, let's stick with the striping plan that meets the 119 or less, and then they'll get a feel for what direction their business is going. I said you can tackle that down later on. Maybe you don't want to put the building there, maybe it goes somewhere else, maybe you don't put a building at all. So just for clarity and to get them moving.
Yeah.
So.
I understand, it seems like the goal has moved around a little bit. Not on our end, but on their
Yeah,
end.
and as the engineer, you know, even what seems like a little change, there's a cascading effect that I think this direction is going to achieve what they want, and it'll be clear, so.
Okay, so you are gonna be at the work session?
I am,
Okay.
and the porters, and, yeah, so we anticipate the work session, which we would discuss the site plan, anything, I guess, that needs to be discussed about the final plat, and then next September's plan commission meeting, we'd be here requesting final plat and site plan approval, barring everything is satisfied.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions at all for Ryan?
Not right now.
No. Is there any public here who'd like to speak on this item? Doesn't look like it. Okay.
John, do you agree with that timeline?
Yeah, we should be fine. Like Ryan said, we're getting back to some of the original stuff. We have a site plan, we're striping on it now.
Well, and Don and I talked briefly today, and I realized that things were going backwards a little bit in a good way.
Yeah, with the BZA kind of defining what what needs to happen, that's on the site plan now as well, and we're still getting to our final
So is that what
plat.
happened, the BZA said asphalt?
Actually, the discussion got to the point where Ryan had asked for a retraction of the request,
I see,
which makes it required.
I see.
And it sounded like to me, from being at the BZA, that, yes, the BZA is gonna require pavement or concrete to go down, but there may be a timeline on when that gets completed.
Well, that was Mr. Porter.
Correct.
Mr. Porter was engaging me during the BZA meeting regarding what he thought would be a timeline for getting all the blacktop done. Of course, committing to something like that in that environment is bad, or any environment is bad. It's our decision if there's a timeline at all. So I guess I have to ask, is Mr. Porter still looking for a timeline for his blacktop?
I believe currently what we're looking at is 3 phases, essentially the north third, middle third, south third. I think at this point, north third would be paved upon approvals here. The middle third, let's call it, in 2.5 years, and then the south third within 5 years.
Clarification on that, since that actually is in the zoning ordinance, does that request have to go before the BZA and not Plan Commission?
It is a BZA.
Zoning ordinance item is BZA.
So why wasn't that asked at the BZA meeting then?
Because he retracted his
Oh, I know,
request
but why was the schedule not asked, is my point.
Well, Mr. Porter was, because
Wait,
it was,
who has jurisdiction to approve a schedule like that, Plan Commission or BZA?
If it's within the zoning ordinance variance being asked for, then it would be the BZA.
Was that actually asked at BZA, was my question.
It was not because
It was discussed generically. It was not
They
discussed in
retracted.
specificity, and then they pulled, it was through their,
So does that show up to the next BZA to request that specifically and get that? I don't know, it's not necessarily a variance, I don't think, but it's certainly a phasing plan.
well, there'd have to be some component, some term of the zoning ordinance that they're seeking relief from. And in that relief request, they would ask for, I presume, a schedule.
Well, like, do they have to go back to the BZA and ask that specifically, not here?
There's nothing pending before the BZA, as I understand it right now.
I'm just saying, do they have to do that? Because we'll approve it as a body as it all being paved.
Then it would be a,
It'd be subject to,
it would be a plan commission item on the site plan that would govern that request.
okay.
So the plan commission can approve a timeline for 3 and 5 years to complete asphalt. That's not a variance to the BZA?
No, that would be a condition of the plat approval.
Can the person do the front quarter, sell the property, and then the next person not responsible?
That's possible. We had that happen here before, haven't we?
You know what I'm talking about?
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is the problem with that allowance.
Gotta tie that end up.
That's exactly what it is, and I have shared with a few people just in some discussions, with phasing, that, it's nowhere near that amount of time. Also, a use involved with what's complete and not complete.
That could be fall and spring.
Well, and as the president of the BZA had said, to me, or everybody, you do a phase, you fill it, and then the taxpayers spend the next 10 years chasing that person to finish it.
Right.
So what you're alluding to is exactly right. But,
I think we can discuss this when it's brought up formally.
okay.
Yeah, and I can't say definitively what they'd say, but I think they're willing to work. If there's some form of phasing, then whatever that timeline, I think they're willing to, that was just, we threw that there, they said, okay, 2.5 years, 5 years.
I got you. And I know that, you know, once Mr. Porter's at the podium, it's open discussion, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to defer this item to the work session in September.
We have a motion by Mr. Kapor, second by Mr. Sharp. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapora?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkening?
Yes. Motion carries. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, item number 10, fee in lieu of sidewalk ordinance. This was a document that Mr. Everly put together, correct?
Well, first of all, I'd like to do two things.
Okay.
Thank both Don Oliphant and Dave Austin for their work on this. This is largely Don's work product. I put it into the structure of an ordinance, and Dave refined it for what you have in your packet here. So the credit largely goes to Don and to David for that. And once we get into discussion on this, Mr. President, there's a couple of things. Dave and I haven't had a chance to discuss this, but after reading his final draft of this, there's a couple of things that I'd like to discuss as possible changes to the document. But again, I just wanted to credit these two gentlemen for getting this in front of you.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Okay, well,
Mr. President, it is a public hearing, it's been duly noticed and advertised. I will get over the copies tomorrow, shag them before the close of business today.
Thank you.
okay, is there anything about this we need to discuss tonight?
I don't have the actual document here.
The document in your packet is one that was provided to me on Friday. It was my understanding in a discussion with you this afternoon that we had had a conversation on a couple of the items. You sent those over to David. Another draft was circulated Monday or Tuesday, adding that additional sentence to this paragraph. On the other page, I didn't bring the copy.
There's another one out there.
That's copied.
And more recent. Okay.
But one of the things to discuss is basically in Section 2, one of the things is having this delineated, if someone is paying the fee, having that delineated as such on the Mylar for the final plat or site plan being approved. That is one of the things to kind of track those who are paying this. The sidewalk installation waiver, so noting in Section 3, one of the things that was in here to have these segregated into separate special revenue, non-reverting fund accounts for each development. One of the changes recommended would be to just have this go into a special revenue, non-reverting fund, with such funds collected to be used for the construction of sidewalks anywhere. They don't necessarily, if we're going to use them throughout the town, need to be segregated by development then. And Section 4, if legally allowed, removing Section 4 in its entirety where this waiver of fees collected would not, if they're not expended with a certain time frame, would go back to the person who paid the fees. That could be a tracking nightmare.
Right.
And-
Well, it might be, but it also might be the right thing to be done legally. You and I had this issue, Rick, in St. John, when the deposit fee for landscaping, I think in the wintertime when the landscapers, or the builders were finishing, they couldn't get their COs.
Yeah.
So they posted $1,000 bond or surety, whatever it was.
Escrow up front, yeah.
Literally, hundreds of thousands of dollars ended up in that account. And it had to be accounted for. Ultimately, there was a state board of accounts, I recall, that
Different though.
addressed it. Again, in St. John, during a spurt of activity. And that had to be dealt with in a legal fashion, not
But what we're
putting
trying to, but the purpose of this fund, David, is to let the town's discretion decide where to put the money collected from people that are, it makes sense to give them a sidewalk waiver, to interconnect different areas of our community so people can walk, right?
Sounds like an extortion.
So why have it expire? I don't think it should
Well, you
expire.
can perpetuate the,
I mean, it'd be nice to get Robin's Nest a sidewalk over to
We'll spend it.
133rd.
Okay, so
Interlink
let
these
me contrast
new
this
neighborhoods.
to another legal collection.
Okay.
The fee in lieu of park dedication,
Okay?
okay? Depending upon how that is phrased, my opinion, it's okay here in Cedar Lake, but depending upon how that's phrased, you give people a choice, developers and builders a choice, and they just write the check or give you the money. But if they don't get a permit. So it's a leverage move, right? That's a problem. That's a problem. It's not elected. And that's why our park impact fee at the election of the developer, applicant, property owner, whomever's making the request on that petition, that allows it, that causes it to occur. So there's some fine tuning, if you will, to this fee collection deal. Can't just collect it because, well, they're collecting it. You just can't do that.
But a person can elect to put the sidewalk in,
They could.
and then so what's the difference?
Well, you have objective and specific criteria, concrete standards, literally, concrete standards they call them in the case law, that tells everybody what the development standards are in your town.
Well, what's wrong with, getting, a dollar amount from somebody that we waive the right for them to put it in and take that money and put it into another sidewalk somewhere, like we do with the park impact
This
fee?
is not
I don't,
related to the project or parcel of land or blade of grass that they brought to you for improvement location permit purposes or subdivision plat approval purpose. That's why. So there's the causal connection issue there is.
So we have to make sure we spend it within so many years, what you're saying.
Well, I'm suggesting that there be a discussion about that. Rick's right, we didn't get a chance to really hammer this stuff out, but we knew it was important to you to begin the dialogue, because it's on your plate now. If advertised, you can direct traffic, you can tell us what to put in it. Just want to make sure that we don't view this as a very gratuitous extra fee.
Well, like the people at Hanover thought we were shaking them down when we told them.
There you go, that's the right word, shaking them down.
But with that said, though.
And we took the money from, instead of 41, to bringing it over to the connection of monastery subdivision to get people to be able to walk to town center / high school.
But they
And
elected.
they felt as though that was wrong. Their attorney.
Yeah, no, I get it, I heard it.
But that was an election on their part, ultimately.
Yeah, they had the option to put the sidewalk in.
Yeah.
And that's my argument, is if they don't want to if they don't like it, put the sidewalk in. Don't argue,
That's exactly the place we ought to be.
right? Put the sidewalk in,
Exactly where we ought
and
to
there
be.
is an option, but we don't have to spend your money if you don't put the sidewalk in.
So
within so many years, I don't see why we'd have to.
That's what I would ask as you all review this ordinance, and we
Okay.
talk about maybe a little bit further for this, some of the suggestions that Rick and Jill have suggested, that we consider
Right.
fine tuning.
Because Section 3, the language in Section 3 is really predicated on the language in Section 4. We don't need the language in Section 3 if we're not going to have the language in Section 4 that requires us to spend the money within a certain period of time, or to give it, and if we don't, give it back to the original payor. If we can take that out of there legally, and I'm the one who put that in there, I don't believe that was in Don's original work product. I put it in there because I thought it might have, for two reasons. I thought it might have to be there legally. Secondarily, I think I misunderstood the original intent of the waiver, the fee in lieu of, in the first place. I assumed it was for, let's go to the Altair example, where we think that now's not the right time to put the sidewalk in, but there should be one there in the future. So we're taking the money now so we can put the sidewalk in on that piece of property in the future. And I don't believe, now in retrospect, I don't believe that was the intent of the fee. I think the intent of the fee was to collect it, give that pertinent, not have a sidewalk ever on that piece of property, and use the money somewhere else in town.
On another sidewalk.
Yeah.
So
Only
if-
for sidewalks.
If that's the
For
case,
sidewalks.
if that's the case, and if we can do that, then I believe we need to get rid of the language in Section 4 and amend the language in Section 3 the way Jill said, so that we just put it into a non-reverting fund and not track it by who paid it. The problem becomes, as Dave said, it could be viewed as an exaction. And it's got to survive a rational nexus. You're taking money from somebody for an improvement on their property that you're not going to spend on their property. So it's a...
No, we're not taking it, they're making the donation. There's a difference.
Well, if they know that sidewalk is never gonna be put on their property, that if they know that.
Right, why is that?
Then, well,
That's when I turn to Dave and say, if they know that and they agree to that, does that pass muster? I
Yeah,
don't.
that's a different story.
And that's how it has to be worded.
That's why we have to sell it.
For them.
Yeah. Otherwise,
To donate
put
money
the sidewalk in.
instead of sidewalk.
And that can happen at application, when people come in, visit with the team to make the application for the development.
Right.
It gets addressed right then and there, so that people know and they can make the election, maybe we have to check the box,
Yeah.
and that's part of the
How is that
process.
different than park fee in lieu of though? Is park fee in lieu of, you get that money from the developer, is that automatically dedicated to some type of park use within the town?
It is.
So how is that different?
Well, we have to be awfully careful. I would tell you that the language in the park has a discretionary tone to it. And if they come in, they being whomever the applicant is, comes in and requests it or suggests that that's what they'd like to do in lieu, or here's what the development plan is, and parks are not practical here because there's one next door in the next project, that type of thing. It's kind of self-initiated.
But it's kind of in this case too, you have a one-lot subdivision where there's not another sidewalk within a mile of it. It's not practical to do it.
It's not practical, that's right. And those are the things that get ferreted out in my mind, or would, when the application comes in. When the developer comes in and brings, the concept drawing and says, we don't think about park, we don't think about sidewalks here, it doesn't make sense to us, that type of thing.
And I would say too, the wording has to be safe enough that we can use it for wood piers as opposed to concrete only, in the event we want to go across, or a path.
Yeah, it's in there. Sidewalk, trails, pedestrian path, ADA
Oh,
curb
is it in
ramp. Yeah, it's pretty broad.
Okay, oh yeah, ADA curb, okay.
Just like Beacon Point gave us money for park to be spent on Kiwanis Park.
Right.
And we haven't done that yet,
No, we
but,
spent it the last month, putting
You got a
stuff
dog
down.
park coming, Bob.
Slowly
Yeah.
but surely, it's getting spent.
well, there's 2 acres for a dog park, 3 acres for other parks, and I talked to Rick early tonight, and he's gonna talk to Ralph and Colleen to see about getting something going so we can come up with a plan, so that lady doesn't come in and attack John anymore.
Let her keep attacking, but we as a park board, Johnny John was
But that money was not for sidewalk.
No, I'm talking like
you're
parks
not on
and
the
sidewalk
The
waivers.
complaint was not for sidewalk.
No, it's for park equipment.
No, but that's not why they gave us the money. They gave us the money because,
The park.
for the retention and, for the green space, correct. They didn't give it to us for the sidewalk, because they put sidewalk in along there to,
I'm talking the money that needs to go to Kiwanis Park.
wrong venue.
Yeah, wrong venue.
No, that's the park, that's the fee.
I know.
Yeah, I'm comparing the fees for
So
the
we need a
waiver sidewalk.
motion, Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion to defer this, or?
Did we open the public hearing?
No, we didn't.
I didn't think so.
We need to probably do that first, Jerry.
Let's open the public hearing, solicit a motion to defer.
But don't close it.
Fee in lieu. All right, item number 10, the fee in lieu of sidewalk ordinance. Review of the legal advertisements for public hearing.
Legals are in order.
Legals are in order. Are there any remonstrators for or against this agenda item? Anyone? Seeing there's none. Building department comments.
Just what was previously said, I think.
You're suggesting a continued discussion and review.
I would.
Okay.
That way we can get with David and get all of our
Okay.
comments.
Sure.
So, any other discussion by the commissioners?
No, sir.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to?
I'd like to make a motion to defer, and the reason being for
And
continued discussion.
continue the
and
public
review.
hearing?
No.
No?
No. Just,
There's nobody here.
For review.
I would close the public
All right.
hearing, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding this item and a deferral?
I would like to make a motion to defer this fee in lieu of sidewalk ordinance for additional continued discussion and review.
Second.
Motion by John Foreman, second by John Capora. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carnahan?
Yes.
Mr. Foreman?
Yes?
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Kapura?
Yes.
Mr. Welkening?
Yes. Motion carries.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
two things. One, John Capura, are you happy? We're working on it. We're close. Are you happy?
What are we talking about, Kiwanis Park?
No, sidewalk.
Fee in lieu of.
Fee in lieu of.
The fee in lieu of sidewalk.
I'm happy. I wanna make sure you're happy tonight.
Well, it's getting awful confusing about the lieu and place of, so I'm back to the point where just make them put the doggone thing in. I don't care if it goes nowhere.
That's completely up to you.
I think in good planning, having a sidewalk be contiguous to somewhere is the better thing to do.
Yeah, interconnectivity for pedestrian traffic is
Yeah,
important.
that's what you.
That's all we're trying to do.
Jerry, second thing.
Did I say roll call? Okay, we already did that, okay.
Second thing, you know, this is an important item, the sidewalk thing. You've been talking about it here for a long time. And the policy considerations you're gonna make are gonna be important for our subdivision ordinance, our development in the community going forward, et cetera. I wanna witness to you seemingly a small innocuous thing, right? Look at the dialogue we had here tonight. Don initiated this, thank you, Rick, for your shepherding of the ordinance. And here we have a deferral because what are we doing? We're digesting it, we're analyzing it, we're trying to make it right for the community, right? I take you back to the ministries. And I want you to know, they've been working regularly. I know they have. I haven't talked to you about it, but I know you have, and Jill, you too. I've been talking to this attorney for 4 months. I have drafts in May, June, July, and August. And I'm awaiting another draft from him in August. So this is not an item that comes together, and leaving it to the attorneys, holy smokes, please don't. It's a policy call. We're just the pen that puts paper what you want to have happen. But important things take digesting. and take chewing out and spitting around so that they're right. Not so that they happen, so that they're right. And that's, tonight, what was important about the ministries in my mind. I know, John, you were anxious to help them. I understand that. Sometimes you can't rush, you cannot rush the Sistine Chapel. It happens, right? So, anyway, there's important work to do here. I promise you, if you all want to look at my draft, Cedar Lake Ministries, and review, that's what's happened over the summer. So, and I know you guys have the same stuff, so.
No, that's why we hire you. I am going to bring something up that, they needed Safe Routes to School more money over at Jane Ball. And we took the money away from MacArthur School and gave that to Jane Ball. And I was told that the street department would end up putting sidewalks in front of MacArthur School, and I'm gonna keep lifting that up until it happens. Good job, Bob.
There's a road project going on in your neighborhood. Why don't we, dovetail?
Keep it up.
It got pulled out of Safe Routes to Schools because the topography doesn't allow for
For ADA.
an ADA compliant sidewalk.
But in the front of MacArthur, it could have been done. It could have been modified.
But that was never part of the original scope that I'm aware of. It was always
Yes,
down
it was.
129.
No, it was in front of the school. There's no sidewalk.
We did talk about, I think, doing it when we had money. We're trying to still figure out how to get money. So we're on our way.
Well, at that time, they had a guy on the street department that was an excellent sidewalk layer. He's no longer there, and he was gonna do it.
There's not much to a sidewalk. 2 2x4s and stone and.
That sounds to me like we have a volunteer. On another note, this fee in lieu of that we struggle with quite a bit, and I'm going to just use a quick example, $50,000 for a fee in lieu of park, green space, whatever you want to call it, in exchange for $2 million of retail property, doesn't seem like a particularly great deal for the taxpayers. So I think what we also need to digest and think about are those two formulas for the fee in lieu of. The square footage, the acreage, whatever
They'll be
that,
reviewed when we do the subdivision.
whatever that is, because we have
Just the
20.
subdivision controller.
They'll be looked at.
Nobody's got that plan.
Well, I think that needs to be looked at as, almost as quickly as the sidewalk thing needs to do, because one formula, it's $250,000 for a fee in lieu of, and the other formula is $2,500.
And really, what this also needs to address, not to beat a dead horse, I think it needs to be of so many, like if I wanted to build a 10-acre subdivision with R1 lots, does it apply? If I want to build a 300-acre subdivision, or, 300 houses on 100 acres, is it then mandatory? Or can those folks also ask for in lieu of?
I think,
Because that
so many
is a big
homes,
question.
so many homes is so much space.
Right.
No matter whether there's 3,000 or 300.
I think we're doing this because there's areas that we know, or if we've made somebody agree to put a sidewalk in, after this takes effect, can they come back in when they're ready to build their house and not put a sidewalk in?
Well,
I'm thinking of a gentleman on 141st that had to put a sidewalk in. If he comes back to start that process again, would he qualify, or can he come back and
Well, I'm not sure what property you're talking about, but the only one that I can
Across
think
from
of,
Wine Coops.
the only property I can think of is not in compliance for anything right now.
No, true, it's gotta start over.
So,
Didn't mean to go there.
okay, well,
But are you
I'm
saying-
talking about parks now, I'm not talking about sidewalks, I'm talking about parks.
Parks.
That formula for parks is one end of the spectrum to the other.
No, we need to look at it.
So is
It'll
that,
be looked at when we redo the entire ordinance.
yeah,
Well, I'd like some kind of recommended example in the near future for us to.
I can provide that for you, Mr.
Jared, you
President.
may have some public.
Yeah, we'll get that. Are you ready to go?
No.
Okay. Okay, are there any public comment? Anyone? Come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Gary, you also have two people on Zoom. I unmuted them.
Hello, my name's Jonathan Janik, property 7914 Lakeshore Drive. And I'm not sure if this is the proper meeting, because I was under the assumption that the council would be addressing the Domino's development down on Klein and Lake Shore.
That was at the council meeting?
No, not the council, this was for the planning department meeting, and I was under the impression.
That was at the BZA meeting.
Okay.
They were here.
Whatever results were.
That was last.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, work session and, yeah.
Yeah, we had reviewed it, BZA and Plan Commission had.
We're
seen it
anticipating
already.
they're coming back September 1st.
Okay, for
this body.
For that hearing, would that similar to the other positions where it's like 1 through 9? Where the public can address any kind of concerns that they have with the development?
Well, September 1st is a work session, so that's not a public comment meeting. September 15th would be a regular meeting, but are they scheduled?
If they make it.
Their goal is to be
Their
public
goal
hearing.
is to be on that.
Is to be here on September 15th, but we don't know yet whether they're gonna make that. They will have to send out notices and put notice in the newspaper and.
This is a public meeting, and you are here for public comment. So if you have some questions that could be answered.
All right, well, not a problem.
Go ahead.
I'll bring them up. I'm here in lieu of my mother who owns the property. We own the adjacent property, and there were just two issues that we did want to address. The first thing is drainage, and we won't get into the whole stormwater thing. Don't worry about that. But currently our property deals with significant flooding because of adjacent residences as well as the property that will be the Domino's, and that's because they're at a higher elevation. This leaves our property mostly swampy for the majority of the year. And there were two issues for the drainage that we have concerns about with the development. We're for the development, we just want to address a few things. Is with the development of the Domino's site, how does the developer plan to handle the increased flooding risk to our property after the entire site is paved?
Let me answer that for you. Sure. To the north and to the east, on the Domino's site, the property runs at an angle. There's a significant retention pond in the back. Detention pond in the back. And if staff give you a quick drawing of that,
I think I've seen it.
You can see that. I don't believe it's legal to add any more water to adjacent properties. They have to maintain their own. Exactly what that engineered design is as simple as I can give it to you right now.
Should help your parcel.
Right.
It should cut a lot of that off.
Yeah.
I heard the words that what they're doing is exceeds what they need to do.
I haven't gotten into that detail yet.
Okay, I heard that at a meeting. I don't know if you said it or their engineer.
So, does that answer that question?
Yes, the first part, and I was aware of the detention pond, and it looks like it's going to be situated directly behind the rear of one of the structures that we have on the property. And the other concern that we have is the structural integrity of that pond. Because it's already very close to our property, as well as because the drainage of other properties surrounding us flow onto the property because we have that creek that flows into the lake itself. Our concern is, like I said, the structural integrity of the part that it could still become marsh. It is soft land, and because a lot of that water flows in there, our concern is that if that detention pond overflows in any manner, or if it does, due to the softness of the soil, fall apart, that endangers two of the three of our structures on the property.
Well, I guess if the soil is not good for the pond and the embankments, correct me anytime, then they'll have to bring in the correct soil to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's primarily cut or if they're going to have they likely will have partial fill on your southern line just to create that berm line because it is falling towards your line.
Okay.
Regarding overflows, if that pond ever did overflow, it would still overflow to your parcel.
Okay.
They're legally allowed to maintain their drainage path, but for, majority of everything, their outlet will be to the storm sewer system under Lakeshore Drive.
Okay.
So they should be cutting off. They have some offsite flow, like you said, from the north. I think that's like Lee Street, Lee Court, or whatever's there. Yeah, there will be some of that inevitably will get into their pond and be routed through. They do have the legal right to bypass that technically, but for the most part, it's not a large area. That'll likely be handled in the storm sewer and bypass you in majority of events.
And that that there used to be a swamp on your mom's property when I was a kid, and it always had water in it, and people went fishing out there, and it seems like it's basically dried up.
There is the pond still there, but since the development of the residences behind the property that are on a higher elevation, we are seeing a increased level of water flowing onto the property, which is making it turn into marshes, even during the winter time. We've been told by quite a few people, even visitors and tenants on the property, that the water has to be coming from a residence because it's warm. There is actually not full on steam, but they're starting to notice that it's a warmer temperature, so it's not coming from the ground, it's coming from one of either some kind of drainage from the residences surrounding our property.
And a lot of the water comes from High Grove, correct?
High Grove.
And goes down into there. So it's been a natural, and it was called a swamp when I was a kid, so I don't know what you want to call it today.
Did you swim in that swamp, Bob?
No, I did not.
Okay, and then the other portion is in regards to the traffic. The thoroughfare with Klein and North Shore, the major development for that infrastructure has been the roundabout. Looking at the project itself, our concern is the ingress and egress of the Domino's development. Yes, I was here yesterday for the council meeting, and they passed the ordinance number 1391 preventing golf carts on Lakeshore Boulevard by the S of the dollar store. And the reason being was that it was a unnecessary hazard to pedestrians and traffic because having the golf carts on there created, quote, a congestion, end quote, situation that they wanted to avoid. With the Domino's going in and where they have their ingress and egress situated, it puts a lot of their potential customers coming into the property and creates a blockage for that roundabout, for people coming in and out of it through Lakeshore Lakeshore Drive. And the concern is if the council was in the frame of mind that having golf carts on Lakeshore Drive was a problem near the dollar store, I don't understand how it's not an issue with where they plan to have their entrance with the Domino's, because not only do you have your traffic going through, but also you have the congestion with the boat launches, which is across the street. And we're aware that there are people constantly coming in through the summertime, but you also have a lot of new boaters who are pulling trailers, and that does create a hazard situation where someone will cross over the yellow lines or block that roundabout with people that are still struggling to pull that trailer, so.
Well, the traffic, left in, right out, left, right, all that, we discussed all that. Don being the engineer, speed limit and some of those things were discussed, and we do anticipate, it being a little more congested there. But the decision was made not to change the median, so it's right out or left out.
Full access.
Full access. We also had kind of a boomerang, the entrance itself being at the pitch that it is, that's going to be raised up.
Okay.
So
They're gonna cut the apron out.
yeah, they're going to cut the apron out, so you're not going to drive so far down into it before you go back up. And Don and their engineer agreed that would make things a little better. So you're not trying to leave on a wet or snowy incline.
It will be tricky for you leaving your property though,
Okay.
if there's cars sitting there, right? Because the road kind of curves in such a manner.
Correct.
At some point, we have to rely on drivers to do what they should do.
Yeah.
Jill, do you have something to say?
Also, the way the design was presented to you, and I don't know which version you have, if you have the earlier version or the most recent one, there's only going to be one drive-through on the building. Domino's is not, as of right now, wasn't going to be the drive-through business. And it does, the parking that they're proposing, in their parking lot will allow for stacking, which means you'll be able to get some of those vehicles in line or in the parking lot and off the roadway.
I think, you came by and saw what we saw on paper, that, tomorrow, or the next day, or whatever, come by over here, and maybe one of the staff can get you, what we saw.
Alright.
It would make a lot more sense.
Already sounds good. And then, in regards to the pitch of the entrance that was brought up, is the rest of the property, are they adding dirt to it to elevate the parcel?
No,
or-
they're just bringing that up, so you go down and then back up. I don't think the property was really gonna change elevation much.
It'll come up a little bit, I think. I don't know exactly what, and to give you some frame of reference, your mom's kind of entrance is roughly 150 feet down the road from the center line of their entrance.
Correct.
Just kind of gives you an idea of separation. Because their actual location of entrance isn't gonna change much, they're just gonna change kind of the, you know, the pitch of it. So, it's a decent kind of separation, but gives you
Yeah,
an idea.
and there will be congestion with boats and all those things. Yeah, we've all seen it or been in it. So,
Everybody wants to come to Cedar Lake with a boat.
That's what it's looking like, and, you know, just overall, our concern is whether or not the street's gonna be widened up, or, you know, if you're just gonna, I mean, if, with the growth of the town, whether that's just gonna be even more highly impacted with, it is a large, I mean, for Cedar Lake, it's a main intersection, and our overall ideas and concern is, are they going to widen the road in any manner to facilitate, I guess, the traffic that is going to be coming, down the road with future developments?
I can say,
Not as
I
part
don't
of
think there's
this
any plans for that.
But our plans, we made a turn lane on 133rd on the west side of the lake, and our plans is eventually to have that go all the way up to Tasty Top, but that's a long ways down the road.
Well, we also try to minimize the signage. So, you know, you don't have great big signs in the air with Domino's, because everybody's gonna know where the Domino's is at.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Can I get your name again? I'm sorry, I didn't quite get it.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Anyone else from the public like to speak? Okay, going once?
Yes, this is your opportunity, Brenda.
I know, I always speak this out to the bitter end. Actually,
Why don't you come up to the podium real quick?
oh,
Going once?
you know, my attorney tells me not to do this.
Those attorneys, they're something, aren't they?
We try to ask questions.
He used to be my attorney too.
Used to be.
Two?
Used to be.
How many attorneys you used to have?
Oh, I had lots of them.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I really do what I ask.
Battery of Brenda's attorneys running around.
Okay.
No, I have nothing to say publicly, but if I may ask you, Mr. President, and Dave, for 30 seconds after the meeting,
Clock's ticking.
after the meeting,
Oh, after the meeting.
after the meeting,
Oh.
just 30 seconds. No debate, just 30 seconds.
Okay. No
Okay.
problem.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any public comments? Anyone? Everybody good?
Bob, anything?
No?
I've never been able to have a conversation with her for 30 seconds.
That was you.
That was the two,
Yeah.
All right, see ya.
Did you adjourn? That's why I only, no, now we're adjourned. That's why I only wait.